All right, we're rolling here.
All
What's up,
right.
guys? I got my client Addison from K9 Academy of the Carolinas. Addison and I have been working together for quite some time, coming up on a year now.
Yes, sir.
And we finally are getting to do this client success interview that I've had to postpone a couple times, unfortunately. But I'm excited to have you here, man. So, Addison, do me a favor, man. Kind of kick it off. Tell everyone about you and how you got started as a trainer.
Thank you, man. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So, how I started the dog training, I I started doing gun dogs, pet bird dogs, when I was like 17 years old. And I quickly wanted to learn how to do, pet dogs and want to do police dogs. So that's when I went to Tar Heel Canine, a big school in North Carolina for it. And that's where I kind of learned the ins and outs of everything. Um, so once I got done with that, it was 2020 when I first started my business, Canine Academy of the Carolinas.
Hmm.
Mostly doing pet dogs, doing, a lot of board and train lessons, just the typical stuff like that. And ever since then, that's what I've been doing. And then whenever I started working with you, that's kind of when everything, got a little bit smoother because always starting the first few years is a little rough and difficult. So,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So you started your business like probably in like the heat of COVID,
I
right? Like
did. It was right when, and that's what made it a little bit,
yeah,
tougher also just because everybody was so careful. Nobody wanted to go out.
yeah,
So it was a little bit harder starting out for me,
yeah,
I would say, just any other years before.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, like what so and tell me like what were you doing? Just remind me, like what were you doing to kind of generate business before we started working together and like
Yeah.
tell everyone a little bit about like how your business was, like the
Mhm.
highs, the lows of like when you were first starting out.
Yeah. So a lot of it was just difficult getting clients in, right?
Yeah.
Once the clients were here, everything was good, everything was smooth, they were happy with the dog, but it was just a matter of getting clients. It was wondering if the next month I was going to have one client or was going to have four clients, and it was a lot of relying on word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to do a bunch of different things, right? I was going, doing a lot of Facebook ads, right? Those reach people, but it honestly doesn't get, a lot of quality
Yeah.
clients, a lot of people who are really willing to do it. I was going out doing festivals, setting up at places, right? Just trying to talk to people. And like I said, it was just a matter of one month I would have one client, the next month I would have five, right? So
Yeah.
it was never like guaranteed that I would get the clients, right? So it brought a lot of stress, right? You don't
Yeah,
know
for
what's
sure.
going to go on month from month. Um, so that's kind of how I started the business, and it was just very, very rough.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what I see with a lot of people is that, it's one thing to like have one really good month, but it's another thing to be able to consistently do that 12 months out
Exactly.
of the year.
Exactly right.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing that a lot of people suffer with is like, hey, I had a good month last month, and then this month just dropped off, and I don't even know why. It's like
Yep.
inexplicable,
Yep. Yep.
So that's the issue. I think that it sounds like you were functioning off of like a lot of word of mouth referrals at that time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like the tricky part with that I always find is that there's no predictability. You can't, there's
No.
nothing you can do. There's marketing campaigns you can run, but there's nothing you can really do, unfortunately, to like force somebody else to go and refer you more. It just
Exactly.
happens organically. So,
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a
yeah,
lot of you don't feel safe, from month to month, right? And it's hard to
yeah,
kind of expand and do what you need to do, buy better stuff, upgrade whenever you don't have because you're trying to save money and then
yeah.
so it's just a lot of conflict whenever you're working like that.
Totally, dude.
Yeah.
And so, like, tell me a little bit about, like, I remember doing like our initial meeting and stuff like that. And you had to, take some time to think it over because there was a little bit of a gap there. If I remember the time before we first talked, and then you were like, hey, let's wait until like the new year and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So, what was it for you? Like, what was it in your business that you were really looking for that you felt like we could help with?
So obviously it's the getting in clients, setting
Yeah.
up consultations. A lot of it was I'm younger, right? So I needed a lot of help with kind of just the structure of everything,
Yeah.
okay, we need to do this for lessons, we need to do this. So it was, and you guys kind of gave me that information to
Yeah.
kind of set me up, right? So it was kind of gave me a foundation. If I ever had questions on selling, right, you guys would always be there to help. So there was a lot of different, reasons why I did it, but a lot of it was, getting in more clients.
Totally. Yeah. And that's what I find with a lot of people is that like they just need to be given the opportunity and then be given the information to really like work with,
Hmm.
because what we find is like, I know everyone's probably sick and tired of hearing me talking about like in-person consultations because
Uh,
they're more difficult to do. It's more time consuming, but that's been a big piece of this. It sounds like to me as well as like your sales process once you got plugged in with this as well, changing some of that. So
yeah,
do me a favor, like walk everybody through like what your current sales process is, like your strategy, like
yeah.
from the time that a lead comes in all the way through the time that they're signing a contract with you.
Yeah, so the lead calls me, right? A lot of it is that first initial phone call, just getting kind of the outline of what's going on and doing my best to set up that in-person consultation,
Yeah.
right? Because that's where I'm going to go and close most of my sales. And so when I get there, I do the consultation, right? I'm kind of giving them what I think their dog should do. A lot of the time, I'm trying to recommend the board and trains. I like doing board and trains more than lessons.
Mhm.
That's just me personally, right? And so from there, whether they set up, whether it's a matter of just getting them. I'm sorry, kind of like, hey, what do you want me to?
Yeah, just kind of like I know it's a loaded question, right? But
Yeah,
like, what are you doing? Like once you get in there, it sounds like you're just so. Let's take it a step back, actually. So when a lead comes in, your whole goal is on that initial phone call just to set them up for a consultation, right? You're not
yes,
focusing on price or talking about
yes.
programs.
I don't say a whole lot of information about each program, and not trying
Yeah,
to feel like a whole. I'm trying to leave it up a little bit of questions so they're intrigued about it whenever I come in and
yeah,
kind of talk to them
yes.
in person about it.
And then like do me a favor, try and get as granular as possible. Like when you're walking in the door, what are you looking to accomplish like once you get into somebody's home? Like are you interacting with the dog right away? Or are you more focused on the person? Like what are you doing when you get into somebody's home?
So I'm a lot of times I'm more focused on the person and hearing their problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hearing what they need to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
Um, because for most dogs I get, right, unless it's some behavioral modification thing, it's just your average dog that needs a little bit of obedience. I need some manners, some boundaries and skills, right? So a lot of times I'm focusing a lot on the client, right, hearing what they got to say and then kind of answering their questions as they go. And kind of telling them, hey, we can fix this. This is what's going to change. This is how your dog's going to be better, right? And then after that, I'll kind of focus on the dog and say, okay, this is what the dog needs, and this is what the program that will fix that, right? So it's a lot of focusing on the client when I first get in.
Okay, that's awesome, dude. So I just want to touch on that for a second because I feel like that's something that could very easily be glazed over what you just said, but you said something very powerful there. Like you say to people, it sounds like, hey, we can fix this, right? Like
Mm.
you'll tell people that like point blank, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the times, like, and I bet a lot of dog trainers will notice this. When you walk into the house, right, what is the dog going to do? Jump up on you.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to jump up on you. It might bark. It might be a little rude, right? And so those are things. Those are things I'm gonna be like, okay, that's gonna be fixed. We're gonna teach you how to go to place when people come in, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of showing it like, hey, we can fix this little annoying stuff. Yeah.
All right, dude. That's awesome because the reason I'm honing in on this is because I think a lot of times people are like even on maybe on a conscious or even subconscious level, they're hesitant to tell people like, "Hey, we can fix this," or like
Mhm.
we can stop that behavior because I know that the dogs are like living, breathing creatures with their own
Yeah.
personalities and stuff like that. And it's not like a piece of software that you're just like plugging in and
Oh,
it's all of a sudden going to behave a different way,
yeah.
right? So I guess what I'm getting at here is you kind of have to toe the line between not making promises that you can't fulfill,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
also being confident at the same time of saying to
Yeah.
people like, hey, I can fix this. Cause that's one of the
Yeah.
most important parts of sales, as far as I see, is like how convicted and how confident are
Yeah.
you that you can actually fix their problem?
Exactly, right. And so yeah, with stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, we can fix that. But I obviously say, hey, I'm not making a robot out of your dog.
Yeah.
It will still mess up. It just like you, it'll still make
Yeah.
mistakes, right? But now we're going to be able to have a way to fix it, right? So
Totally.
I definitely am very, like, hey, we can do this. We can. There won't be pulling on the leash, right? There won't be any running away. So it's I'm very, exact with what we can fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you typically handle like a true aggression case or something like that and people who are like asking about like what they can expect from a dog that maybe has like a bite history or
Yeah.
something like that?
So like for those types of dogs, it's different. It's a different type of consultation, right?
Yeah,
It's not.
totally.
It's very much like, hey, let's step outside, not in a crowded place.
Hmm.
Have the dog on the leash, right? But I'll get a lot of people who have these type of dogs and they want to make their dog social, right? And I
Hmm.
tell them always up front, I can't make your dog social, right? A lot of what I'm doing is teaching your dog how to be neutral in situations,
Yes.
right? So if your dog is, dog aggressive, right? Teaching it, hey, when we're in a walk, you don't need to be focusing on this dog, or if you're in a down, you don't need to be focusing on this dog walking across the street, right? So it's a lot of teaching the dog how to be neutral, and that's kind of what I push to the people with those dogs who are aggressive.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's really well said. It's like you have to clearly define what the goals are for people. And the goal with a dog that has a bite history is not to turn this into a dog that you're just going to be able to like cut off leash at a
Yeah.
dog park and be like, hey, everything's going to be fine, right? It's like,
Exactly. And
yeah,
I
it's more
make
about
that very
management.
clear. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially with cases like that, I'm very specific on what the dog will do, right?
right,
I'm not trying to, give expectations that I can't meet.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like with that, it sounds like you'll do some demoing when you get out to their house, like with their dog. Will you put their dog on a leash and kind of like give them some like quick results, or like do you typically stay away from that? What's your kind of like process when you're at the consultation?
So a lot of the times, I forgot to mention this, I will bring my dog, my personal
Okay.
dog, right? And just kind of show them what she can do. I don't
Yep.
do a whole lot of like taking the leash, right? And doing a whole lot of stuff right there at the consultation. But I will show them what my dog can do.
Right.
Um, and just kind of show them, the commands, like the place command, sit or walk on a leash, show them what my dog can do and say, hey, your dog can do this also.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome, man. And then when it comes to your programs, because it sounds like you're offering private lessons, you prefer board and trains. I know a lot of trainers do. Obviously, a higher ticket offer there.
Yeah.
But like when it comes time to the end, and like once you've heard like everything that they want to accomplish, what they're struggling with, how do you go about like selling them on a program? Do you let them choose? Do you kind of tell them like, hey, this is what I think would be best for you guys?
So yeah, I'm always as honest as possible. I'm always, I would recommend what I think is the best for them and what their
Yeah.
needs are, right? Um, so obviously, if there's a dog, aggressive dog, right? I'm not going to say, hey, let's do this in lessons.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. If it's a dog that just needs, some to learn to walk on a leash, right? We might do a few lessons for that. So I kind of just specifically like, hey, this is what your dog needs, and this is what I would recommend. Now I do give them the full option, like, hey, if you want the best, the off leash stuff, this is the board and train that I'd recommend for you. So I give them, I kind of give them the rundown of what we have, and they kind of specifically, like, hey, I think this would what your dog needs the best. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the analogy I always use, because somebody said this to me one time, it always stuck with me, is that like it's almost like you go to a doctor and you're sick and you kind of ask them like, hey, here are my symptoms, here's what I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lean on that medical professional to kind of tell you like what you need. You're not just going to say to them, hey, I think I need open heart surgery to get better, right?
Yeah.
So like I think people do the same thing with you, and by putting it on them, which is what I know a lot of trainers do, which like, hey, here's like all of our programs, which one would you like to choose from? I think that especially if you have a price tag attached to those programs while you're offering them like the menu of things they can choose from, it's basic human nature for them to default to the program that's the cheapest and the least amount of time. And that's going to obviously not get them results. And I think that this is a really important point to touch on, is that you want to do what's best for them, and that's what's going to get them the best results, because the moment that like it's momentary, the pain of them having to pay that price. So even if it's like a $4,000 board and train, but they're not going to be thinking about that $4,000 that they spent on your program forever. What they're going to be thinking about is like the results and the life-changing experience that you gave them forever. And that's the type of thing like that's going to make them want to go out and spread the good word about your business. They're not going to be like, hey, they're a really cheap dog trainer. Like if that's what's most important to them, you probably don't want that client anyway.
No, not at all.
You want the people that are like gung-ho about like, this was an amazing experience, and now they're going to go and sing the good word about your business.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a lot of the reasons why, like, I get a lot of people who do want to do lessons.
Yeah.
They on their own, they'll pay for it, and on their own side, they don't follow up, right? Because they got to set up the meeting, right? They got to pick out a time, and they rush to get home from work, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a lot of people. That's why they don't even choose lessons whenever I go there. They'd rather do the board and train, give the dog to me, let me do it, and show them how to do it afterwards.
Now, will you spell that out for people? Like when you're with them, like, hey, you can do lessons, but it's just going to require a lot more effort on your part.
Yeah, especially like if I go out to a family, right? They have
Yeah.
kids that are in school, right? They both work a job. I'll always be honest, like, hey, this does take,
Yeah.
time on your part to kind of continue this through the week, send me videos,
Yeah.
let me see how it's going. So that a lot of time also is like, okay, I'd rather just give the dog to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I really want to focus on this for a second. So at the end of it, you've gone through everything you want to go through. It sounds like you do a really good job of asking them questions.
Hmm.
And that's something that's really important as well. As I think a lot of times people go out and they're like, I need to sell this person. So they go out and do like a ton of talking and they just blabber on for hours and hours and hours and people stop listening. It sounds like you're going out there with the intention to ask questions, get them talking as much as possible, and do
Yeah.
more listening than you are talking.
I think that's what I really try to do. I try to, listen to what they really need and trying to kind of, you
Yeah.
know, pinpoint and help them and answer all the questions like that and make them feel like, hey, I'm there to train and help them. So
Yeah.
I'm not like my consultations aren't super, super long,
Okay.
like 20, 25 minutes max.
You're quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And
in and
so
out. Yeah.
usually by then, they got all the information they need and
Yeah.
they're asking me questions and we're wrapping it up.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Cause it can be a hard thing to do. Sometimes people like I've done sales calls before where you're asking questions and they're just giving you nothing,
Yeah,
give
yeah,
you a
it's hard to
one-word
read them,
answer.
and I hear you. It's hard to read them. I've had a
Yeah.
few of those, but yeah, for the most part, when I go out there, they've already got because on the phone call, the first initial phone call, I say write all your questions down you got for me,
Okay,
write
cool.
everything you're trying to figure out, and they've already got it listed out there for me.
Wonderful. But you're reserving pricing and programs till the very end, it sounds like.
Yeah, till the very end.
All right,
Yeah,
dude. That's incredible, man. That's something that I would encourage for everybody. Like
yeah,
sometimes I think that this is something that some people just don't understand is that like there's a time and place for everything,
yeah,
and I think the time and place for talking about pricing is not until the very end, until like you've built a ton of value and you've built
yeah.
a real connection with that person.
I agree with that, right? And that's especially on that first phone call. I'm never saying price because oh yeah, it's $4,000, right? They're just gonna and
No.
it's kind of like okay, whatever, right?
Yeah,
And when I go there and I talk to them and I hear them and I listen to them, then it builds a little bit more of a relationship that they can trust me.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and so like that's a really good idea. So you have them kind of like do a little bit of homework before you get out there, write down your questions. Is there anything else that they're getting prior to you getting out there or anything like that? Or is it really just you getting them to focus on what's important to them?
Yep, that's it. Just getting on what they need to be fixed and how what their problems are really. That's all that's happening before I go out there.
Okay. All right, nice. Now let's talk about like everyone's favorite topic when it comes to sales, which is like when you get a price objection. So, when you're selling offers that are worth like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, it's inevitable that you're going to get somebody who says like, whoa, that's a lot of money, right? Or like, I don't know, we had to think about it. How
Yeah.
do you typically handle those situations with people?
Yeah, so the first things first, right? Say it's my unleash board and train, right? It's two
Yeah.
thousand. And they say I would like to do it, right? But it's too much money for me. So I'll kind of break the payments down for them. So obviously it's gonna be like a $500 deposit, right? And then that deposit holds their spot. When they come drop off, it's half the payment. When you pick up, it's half the payment. So first, I try to give them that option, like see, like it's not all due up front,
Okay,
right?
cool.
You got weeks in between to pay the money, so
Okay.
that way there's not feeling pressure to pay it all immediately, and that. So that a lot of the time helps with that. And then I do like have a few other options, like we got the PayPal, right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
PayPal. So that is also one that kind of helps people too. Uh,
Yeah.
that way they can pay it off throughout the month,
Hmm.
right? So that's another way I do it. Um, and then like for the last resorts, like if they're really kind of still like, hey, it's too much money. I don't know if I can do it. I will kind of recommend like, hey, maybe we should do lessons. We can start out with lessons, see if you like the progress, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. Okay,
Right. So
cool.
I'm always trying to, obviously I'm always trying to sell, but I'm always trying to, if it's too much money, we got this option or we got this option, right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
something's always tailored to them.
That's awesome, man. Because I think so many times people think that, oh, it's a $3,000 program. They said they can't pay $3,000. I guess the deal is dead, right?
No, no, not for me. I'm
Yeah,
always
you're like, we're just getting started. I got
yeah,
so many
yeah. There's
options
always
for you.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, dude. And so, do me a favor, like, walk me through like your overall philosophy when it comes to payment plans. Because some trainers feel like, well, I just need to get paid for my work, right? So, like, walk me through like what you think about that and just like your overall philosophy with like getting paid and allowing people to pay over a longer period of time.
So I've always done it since I've started my business. So
Yeah.
it's always been normal to me, right? And I know like if somebody wants to do the off leash, right, it's 3,500 and they really want to do it and they're good clients, right? It's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
I understand it's a lot of money and it doesn't bother me to do the payment plans.
Yeah.
Um like especially through the PayPal, it's it's a very good tool to use.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about PayPal credit, right? Where people
Yeah,
get six
exactly.
months, yeah, six
Exactly.
months interest free. So anybody who's listening to this, like if you're not familiar with what Addison's talking about here, you can get people to sign up through PayPal credit. There's just a very simple link that they can sign up through. They get 6 months completely interest free to pay it off. You get paid out that money and like they're ready to get started. So that's a
Yep.
great tool to have in your arsenal.
I think like if you don't have those options, it's kind of limiting you
Yeah,
on certain programs, right, that you want to sell, especially, the higher value ones. So
totally.
I do think it is important to kind of offer different options.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's very well said.
Yeah.
So you'll give them the price, say it's $2,500, and will you just kind of like be quiet and see what they say to that? And then if they say, cool, let me get my checkbook, you're not asking for payments, right? You'll just take the payment.
I'll take the payment. If they want to,
Yeah.
if they want to pay it all up front, that is fine with me. Like I'll kind of say, I'll kind of give them a list. I'll say, okay, for that program, it's this much. This is what your
Yeah.
dog's going to learn. This is what it comes with, and this is there's follow up lessons with it. So it's kind of giving them everything it comes with, right? And then I'm just giving them a second to kind of think of it and let them say the next word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people's hesitation when it comes to payment plans is around like, what if I don't get paid? So you have this very clearly set up so that like there is no way that you're not getting paid, right? Like $500 deposit, then they have to do some at drop off and some at pickup or some halfway through the program, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I have not had a client do that. Like I've never had a problem with it. Um, and like even the day they send that, say I go up to the consultation, right, and I get the deposit, I'm already bringing the contract with me, right,
Yep.
and them to sign everything there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, dude, that's money. That's really good advice because so many times people make the mistake of like not having their paperwork, not have a payment processor, not have any sort of way to collect payment on the spot. And then they go back home and they're like, I'll send you my invoice when I get home. And then they just get ghosted.
Yeah, no, no, not at all. Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
do
Can't be
that.
doing that. Yeah.
No, you can't
But a
do
lot of people do for whatever reason. It's like it's a very beginner mistake. And I shouldn't even say beginner. People make that into, like 10 years, 20 years into business, they're still doing stuff like that. So
that.
what I would say is for me, it's like whenever I get a green light from anybody, before I'm talking about anything else, intake forms or anything like that, the only thing I care about is like, you said yes, let's get a payment method on file.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So I'm the same way. I'll take cash, check. I'll do through Stripe. Right. So I got a bunch of different ways. Right.
You're like Bitcoin, I don't care what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, as soon as I'm there, I would imagine if you didn't do that, a lot of people would ghost you right after you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so funny. We're talking about like a deposit. I have a client, Marcus, who we're probably going to do a client successful interview with it soon enough. But I was dying laughing. Recently, he told me that he needed a new air conditioner or something like that. And
Yeah.
he was out at a client's house and they didn't have a ton of money. And they were like, we really want to get started. And they didn't have the money to get started. So he was like, I'll tell you what, that's a nice air conditioner you have sitting in the corner of your house there. Like, I'll take that as a deposit. And they gave him it. And he's like, okay, cool.
That's a good deal. That's a good deal. Those
Yeah,
are
it's so funny, man. Yeah, but that just goes to show that like people do want to get started, and you just need to make it like feasible to them. You need to make it accessible. So I think it's awesome, man, that you have all these different payment options, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's something that a lot of people are like missing out on by not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like with that being said, at the end, as soon as you kind of like are ready to take payment, that's the first thing you're doing. And then you're just handing them a contract for them to sign on the spot, right?
Yep. So I got a contract, right? And they'll get their own copy of it. They can read over it, and then I'll get mine that they sign.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then from there, they're ready to get started. Is there anything else you need to get into their hands or anything?
So that's it. We'll set up their date for the drop off for the dog, and they bring the dog.
Nice, man. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this for a sec. So before I had to stop myself before we hit the record button here, because I was saying to you, like, we're going to have an entire conversation before we actually record anything. So you were just saying to me that you just had your best month. So tell everyone about that and like, what last month looked like for you.
Yeah, so my best month was this past month, and I sold $12,000 in total, which is good for me. It's very, very
Yeah.
good. So I'm happy with that,
Yeah.
right? And since I've started working with you, obviously the first month or two was just kind of getting everything set up. But after that, I've
Totally.
been doing about nine to $10,000 a month.
Yeah,
So,
man, and that's incredible. Like, $8,400 a month is your six-figure business. So
mhm.
doing 9 to 10K, like there's a lot of businesses that have existed for a long time in the dog training world that have never gotten to that milestone. So
Yeah,
what do you feel like has like been the biggest game changer for you? Just like getting more opportunity, more leads, or what is it?
getting more opportunities.
Yeah.
That's all that's been the biggest game changer for me. Getting in front of people, right? Getting people to call my phone, getting people to call the business, right? That has been the biggest change for me.
Yeah. Okay. And so yeah, I mean, like, what is your mindset around like when a new lead is like coming in? Because I know that's something that's like really important as well as like speed getting to, that new like potential lead coming in.
Yeah. So a lot of the times I am out in the kennel, right? So I miss
Yeah.
a phone call, but as soon as I see, somebody had called, and as soon as I see through the app that somebody submitted a form,
Yeah.
I'm stepping out and I'm giving them a phone call. I think the
Yeah.
quicker you are with it, right, the less chance they're going to go look at somebody else, down the street. So uh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be as quick as possible whenever getting back and talking to the client.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's really good advice. It's something that I preach to everybody, and I'm sure for people, it's good to hear from somebody like other than me that speed is such a big part of this.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah, because people are always want they want everything like that, right? So if you give them time, they will just go call somebody else down the street.
yeah,
But that's just the game. So the speed is the best thing.
it's everything, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's so funny, man. Like, you would think like in certain cases it is like life or death. Unfortunately, in dog training, people do, if you have like a severe case or something like that. But even with people that are just dealing with like a dog that's just that lacks obedience, no behavioral issues, it's an interesting thing because it's like when people really make up their mind that they're ready to get started now, they're
yeah,
ready to get started now, like not
yeah.
tomorrow.
Oh
And
yeah,
so when you just like realize the fact that it's like, hey, even though this isn't life or death, like no one's having a heart attack here, I still just got to honor the fact that like they're ready to talk to somebody now. And if I don't answer that call or get back to them ASAP, they're just going to be calling the next person on the list.
yep, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, tell me a little bit more, like, because I want to give everyone like a good amount of value here. Like, is there anything else that you're doing, like, even outside of the ads that we're running for you or anything like that, to like grow your business, or are you like pretty much just like, hey, like this is keeping me like as busy as I need to be, and I'm pretty happy about this.
For right now, this is keeping me as busy as I need to be. I'm
Yeah.
kind of booked out to like right now booked out to the end of October. So
Yep.
anyways, at that point, a lot of people if you say, hey, we got an opening in November, a lot of people don't want to wait that long anyway. So
Yeah.
as of right now, I'm kind of working, at full steam ahead. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything else other than this.
All right, sweet. You're just kind of keeping like your head above water in some regards, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so we were talking a little bit about hiring somebody, and you were saying that you're potentially like considering going down like the contracting route, but you're just not sure because like you're also through like doing this whole process have been able to be like profitable enough where it sounds like you're investing in like a new facility on your
Yep,
property to help you accommodate more dogs, right?
yep. So that's the next step right now. So building a new building in the process of doing that. Um, And so once I get that done, hopefully, take in 3 or 4 more dogs at a time. But yeah, for the process of hiring somebody, I like the idea of contracting somebody out to do it.
Yeah.
That way, there's not another dog on my property under my care. Right? I think it kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, totally.
For me personally, I'd rather just say, hey, here's this dog. This is the programs that we're offering. This is what we need to do, right? And then just give them a percentage of whatever the board to train is.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And, just to talk about that a little bit, I think that if I could give a word of advice, like I've been helping quite a few people recently with like hiring and like what to pay. That's always a question. And I think that people a lot of times it's very easy to get burnt out in your business and you're just so excited to have somebody coming on board to work with you and take some of the work. And you're like, hey, this is great. I'll pay them like 50 or 60 or 75% of the dog, and
Yeah.
then I'll get the remaining. What I would encourage everybody to do is like take a look at websites like Indeed, like Monster.com or Craigslist, and see what dog training companies in your area are paying people, because you'll be able
Yeah.
to get like a salary range. And a
Yeah.
lot of times people end up paying out way more to their employees when they're doing like a contracting, or their contractors, I should say, when they're paying them to take on a dog or two, than they really need to pay.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm even talking about this is because people say, well, who cares? Like, I give them 50%, I make 50%. It's not really ever 50-50. It's the type of thing where it's like they get 50 and you get like 22 or something like that, because you have all these other expenses that get factored into marketing the job, insurance, like all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So have you put any thought into like what you're going to be doing as far as like hiring and like what like just that whole process?
I have not really. I've just kind of put the thought out there. I
Yeah.
haven't really thought into the specifics of everything with it.
Yeah.
But that is a good word of advice that I'll probably think about
Yeah.
more.
And we could book a call to talk some more about that, of course.
Yeah.
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 Nice, man. Well, let's go back to for a second, like when we first started together, because, I remember talking to you like when we first got started and things were like really down, and it was just like a roller coaster up and down and like no real consistency. And it's just really cool, man, to see that like after all this time, like you've checked all these boxes of things that you wanted to do. So like have, like a six-figure business,
Yeah.
book out your business. I know that's a big one for people, is like being able to book out into the future and not be so like forget month to month, so day to day, and like not being able to know where the next dog is coming from. So just like do me a favor, like share with everybody just kind of like, how that feels, honestly, like being able to just have the freedom of like being able to run this business and not be so
Yeah.
worried about where everything's coming from.
Yeah, I'm sure like everybody that will listen to this and owns a dog training business, they've been in the slump where one month they have one dog, next month they're full.
Yeah.
And that's not a good feeling, right? Because
Yeah.
like what we're talking about, you can't really save and plan for the future. Well, you can't really build a new building, you can't expand, you can't buy what you need to do because you're always trying to save money. You don't
Yeah.
know when you're gonna have a full kennel, when you're gonna have one dog. So once I kind of got to where I was booked out every month, it freed up a lot of, it freed up a lot of headspace. I wasn't as
Yeah.
worried about it as much. Right. So it's something that really gave me a lot of freedom to kind of like, hey, now we're able to build a new building, right? We're able to buy whole new kennels now. So it does give me a lot of freedom the more clients and the more booked out you are. Yes, you're a little
Yeah.
bit more busier with dogs, right? But financially, it really does, give you a lot more freedom.
Yeah, it creates a whole new set of problems of like, how do
Yeah,
I keep up with all this? But
yeah,
that's so much better than the alternative.
yeah. It definitely is, and
Yeah,
like I said, most dog trainers that have done this understand that problem. So
yeah, yeah, and I think it's sometimes like easy to forget. Like I do that sometimes too, where it's like when you're starting a business, or even if you've been running your business and you don't have that part of it dialed in of like how to get business, that's so unbelievably stressful. And then
oh
like
my
once
God.
you get busy, you're like, well, now I'm dealing with just keeping up with the work. But yeah, I mean, we own a marketing agency specifically for dog trainers, and like it's just interesting talking to so many people. And that's just such a concern for so many people, where they're like, I just don't even know where my next paycheck is coming from. And I'm just like, the only advice I can give to everybody is like, you got to have some sort of system in place that's always working for you.
Yeah,
You don't, a lot of times what I notice for people is like, they're slow, so they have time to go out and market themselves and knock on doors and shake hands with vets offices and stuff like that and drum up business. But then they get busy and they have an okay month, but then they don't have the time to do that again to
yeah,
fill the pipeline for the following month. So it's just this constant stage of like fluctuation and stuff like that. So
yeah,
with paid advertising, with Google Ads, like you're a testament to this. It seems like that it's like it's always working in the background. It's
yeah,
always getting new leads for you, so you can just get them on a call, set a consultation, and make the sale.
yeah. It's good. It's always working in the background.
Yeah, for sure. Nice, man. Well, let's listen, man. Let's do this. Like, do me a favor. Walk everybody through like what is some advice that you would give somebody if like put yourself back in the shoes that you were in like this time last year. Like what is the advice that you would give to somebody who is like in that exact stage that you were in at that time?
Yeah, I think a lot of it needs like we were talking about at the beginning, just having a foundation, right? Knowing your programs in and out and kind of already, having the answers to all the questions they have. Because if you just sit there frozen for a second, they're kind of look at you like, hey,
Yeah.
does he really know what he's doing? Uh, Reviews are always good, right?
Mhm.
Getting, all the clients you get, because if everybody's always looking for reviews,
Yep.
right? They're not going to want to send their dog to a place that has no reviews. So that's always something that I really started doing now, building up my reviews. Um, yeah, just like I said, knowing and listening to the customer. I think that's something that don't always talk and talk and talk and talk, right? So that's something that, like what we're talking about,
Yeah.
that I try to really do is understand what their problems are and understanding the client, the customer, and what they need.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice, man. You touched on a couple of things there. Yeah, I think that I've even noticed this, and this is anecdotal, but I could see this being very true that we have clients that we've noticed that like their accounts perform better than an account that's like in like a very similar market, a very similar city, or even if it's a massive city in the same city in some cases. And so like with that, the only thing that I can really surmise from that is like one company has just a level of professionalism that the other one doesn't, like a ton of 5-star reviews,
Yeah,
high quality photos, nice looking website, good
yeah,
social media presence. Like people aren't always just going to see an ad, click on it, and be ready to pay $4,000 for a program. Like they need to see more than that. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's something that's always kind of got to be going on in the background, like building a really good presence with like
yeah.
5-star reviews
Yeah,
online. And
having a good foundation with everything.
yeah. How do you go about like generating those? Like, do you have like a process? Do you ask people on the spot? Do you send them like links, like through text? Like, what do you do?
So usually, like for the reviews,
Hmm.
so usually, whenever they're done with whether it's the lessons of the board and train, right? After they're happy with everything, and after all their follow up lessons are done, I'll kind of ask them what they thought, ask them what they like if their problems are fixed, and then if they say yes to all that, I'll send them a link to the Google page, and
Nice.
they can give me a review straight on there.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And you're focusing more on Google than you are like Facebook, right?
I am.
I
Just
remember like the first time we talked, you're like, dude, I hate Facebook.
yeah, I'm not on social media very much.
Yeah, it's not your thing. It's just not like the type of guy you are. I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think social media is one of those things that it can be a huge asset in your life. Like if you're disciplined and use it for business, but man, it
Yeah,
can be
it
a
definitely
total
takes.
drama fest, time
Yeah,
suck.
yeah, but this will be like the first time Facebook has seen my face in
Yeah.
probably like 2 years. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yes, running social media is a big thing that you need to do.
Yeah, for
Yes, it's
sure.
annoying to post every day and you get the perfect video and to get the
Yeah.
perfect picture, but it's necessary.
Nice, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, brother, like I won't keep you here all day today. Like, is there anything else you want to like share with anybody or anything else you want to chat about? Anything else you've like found helpful or anything?
I think that's it. I think we kind of covered everything and kind of
Yeah.
told you my process of everything and how I went from, month to month I was worried about clients and now that I'm booked out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. Like I said to you before we got started, like you're such an easygoing client. Like you were just a testament to like just give me the opportunity and I'll just run
Yeah.
with it.
Oh
So
yeah, I appreciate your work, man. I
yeah,
really did. It helped me a lot.
good. I appreciate you saying that, man. Yeah. Well, listen, we'll have to do another one of these soon, and we'll kind of do another check in. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to get on here,
Yeah.
and we'll be sharing this interview in like the dog trainer community. So I'm sure, like Addison, I don't want to put you out, but like if anyone has any questions or to see if this is even like legit or anything like that, like you're not on social media, but like do you want to like plug your business name or anything like that in case people just
So
want to look you up?
so I will comment on whatever you posted on. If
Yeah.
you're gonna post in the Facebook group, I'll just comment, thank you, and they can just send me a message through there. And then if you click on my profile, you see my business name on there, my phone number. So
Yeah. Not that
yeah,
I want you getting spammed and stuff, hopefully you get flooded with DMs, but I appreciate that, man.
no problem, man.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we'll end it here for today, but we'll talk soon. Okay.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Catch you.
See you.